Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm very concerned about what this bill does to the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. I'm a staunch defender of the environment, and many of you know how hard the man who this room is named after worked on NEPA as an original author and having it signed into law. Today, NEPA remains one of our nation's strongest tools to ensure communities have meaningful input on major federal actions. And that's why I'm deeply concerned with Title III, Section 301 of this amendment, which would exempt any covered project from both NEPA and the National Historic Preservation Act. Section 301 says that any federal authorization for a covered project cannot be considered a major federal action under NEPA and cannot be considered an undertaking under NHPA. In practice, that means no environmental review and no historic preservation review, full stop. And the definition of a covered project is incredibly broad. It includes the mounting, the installation, or modification of wireless facilities, wireline deployments on existing infrastructure, small cells, and nearly all work in public rights-of-way. It also includes any deployment in a brownfield, which should alarm anyone whose community has ever dealt with environmental cleanups or Superfund sites, something Southeast Michigan knows too well. These are areas where vulnerable communities already bear the brunt of pollution and climate risk. Under this legislation, broadband infrastructure in brownfields would totally bypass environmental review. Covered projects also include post-disaster rebuilds, equipment swaps, removing insecure equipment, and projects under FCC geographic licenses. Even significant modifications like antenna swaps, equipment upgrades, or expansion of existing towers are already largely exempt under existing categorical exclusion parameters. In effect, almost every routine wireless and wireline deployment already skips any serious level of NEPA review altogether. NEPA's directive is straightforward. The federal government must consider how a project will affect the environment, and the people impacted should have a real chance to weigh in. That includes examining climate impacts, environmental justice concerns, and effects on culturally or historically sensitive sites. Eliminating those reviews means eliminating the voices of frontline communities, many of which have been ignored or overburdened for too long. I believe we should have bipartisan conversations about smart and targeted permitting reform. And I've said before, I welcome an honest conversation about long-term NEPA modernization that protects communities while allowing projects to move efficiently. But this proposal takes the wrong approach. It doesn't streamline NEPA, it guts it. We should not have to choose between deploying broadband and protecting bedrock environmental laws. We can and should do both. What we cannot do is adopt exemptions that silence communities and undermine decades of environmental protection. For these reasons, I urge my colleagues to reject this aims and oppose this legislation. Thank you, and I yield back.